Hello YouTube, Triumph Guy here, and today I'm going to do a brief history on the Triumph Spitfire. Now, firstly I'd like to thank everyone who's let me use their cars for this video. Obviously I don't own a Mark 1 or a Spitfire 4, 2, 3, I do have a Mark 4, so thanks so much for letting me use it on this video. Also, I'll just give you a quick update on my car. It's running really well at the moment, so the timing's now really good, and there's a few other bits and bobs I want to do. I have dented the boot ever so slightly, which is a bit of a shame, but I should be doing a video on how to remove ever so small dents and redo paintwork at some point. So what is a Triumph Spitfire? A Triumph Spitfire is a two-seated British sports car produced between 1962 and 1980. The car was originally manufactured at Standard Triumph Works in Canley, Coventry, and it had the code name Bomb until it then basically was a Triumph Herald chassis, which was manipulated slightly to make a Triumph Spitfire to cut down costs. Now, the Italian designer basically come up with it, and then a car cover got put over it, and it was found when the factory was taken over by Leyland. Now, when they found it, that's when it then got manufactured in 1962. Now I'm just going to go over some cool facts. So first one, which I like a lot, is if you type into Google best car names in the world, Triumph Spitfire is fourth, which I think is phenomenal. Also, the Triumph Spitfire chassis is quite good, so a lot of people have made kit cars from them. And also, the Triumph Spitfire made 4 Spitfires to race, well, 3 of which raced in Le Mans, 64 and 65. So the first Spitfire ever made, which everyone thinks it's called the Mark 1, was actually called the Triumph Spitfire 4. So now that brings us on nicely to talk about the Mark 1 or the Spitfire 4. So it was produced between 62 and 64. It had a 1,147 cc engine, and only, well, quite a few actually, 45,000 were produced. However, in the UK to date, there is only 18 remaining on the road, so there's probably a couple hiding in barns somewhere. Hopefully someone lucky does find them and get them restored, because they are beautiful cars. Now, it did come with a obviously soft top. You also had a hard top option, and in 64 overdrive was brought in as an option. The car did, however, suffer from really violent oversteer. There was a couple of things which owners did to rectify this. One was to add some negative camber to the rear wheels. Another was to add camber compensators. These cars did produce 63 brake horsepower and had about 31 miles to the gallon. 0 to 60 was 16.4 seconds. Now, a car at that age, I don't think it's that bad with such a small engine. Then the Mark II was brought in. So this was produced between 65 and 67. Not much had changed on the Mark II. They changed some of the badging on it. They still had that violent oversteer. They added a inlet manifold heater, which then meant that it produced 4 more brake horsepower. Again, a similar region amount of cars. At this point, it was 37,000 cars were produced and still had the same miles per gallon at 31. Again, an absolute stunning car. You can't beat the old Triumphs. Their rear tail lights, I absolutely love that on them. So now I'm going to talk about the Mark III. Funny actually, because I actually spoke to a Mark III owner today at work. I didn't realise he had a Mark III, so that was quite cool. And yeah, again, there are a lot of major changes in the Mark III. First of all, what you'll notice about the Mark III is the front end is different, and this was to comply with crash regulations. The Mark III also had a more powerful engine, which is a 1,296 cc or 1.3 litre, which produced 75 brake horsepower with a 0 to 60 of 13.4 seconds, which is quite impressive of a car at that age. It also produced 33 miles per gallon, which is a little bit better than the Mark 1 and 2. So not bad, if you ask me. More miles per gallon, more power. And this was between 1967 and 1970. Only, well, a lot of these were built now, so 65,000 Mark 3s were produced. And it also had a different reverse light. It was the old ones had two, I believe, and then this had a different reverse light. On the 8th of February 1968, George Turnbull, the general manager of Triumph, personally drove off the 100,000th Spitfire off the production line, and 75% of these were exported outside of the UK, which is fantastic. If you think about, you know, the UK actually exporting some really good products now. 45% of them cars were exported to the US, and if you don't know already, the US actually, believe it or not, had some very strict emission controls and regulations. Now, some to meet these would include things such as a brake failure warning light, idle speed regulator, anti-tamper devices on the SU carb so you can't adjust the fuel mixture, and also a lower compression rate, which sucks for them. They've lost 7 brake horsepower, so they were 68 brake horsepower. The final year of this production was 1970, where they just changed some of the badges, and then you could swap out the twin SU carbs and replace with a Zenith Stormberg single carb. Now the Mark IV with a 1300 engine, produced between 1970 and 1974. 70,000 of these were produced. This is the car I own, which you probably already know if you've seen my channel before. It's got a completely different rear tail lights, which actually I prefer the older ones, believe it or not. And it also had come with a wooden dash in 1973, like the wooden dash I've got in mine. The engine, unfortunately, was now lowered down to 63 brake horsepower from the original 75 to match emissions, which is a shame. The starting cost of a Spitfire back in the day was £500. Now, this was about 8 years ago. The cost now of a Spitfire was £735. So that just shows you how much maybe inflation went up back then, or maybe the car prices changed. But yeah, it was pretty crazy. The main thing which changed on this car, though, which addressed a lot of issues, was they finally fixed that rear suspension issue. I don't know if anyone's, I suppose a lot of the owners with the Mark 1s and 2s would have probably had theirs rectified back in the day, so they probably haven't realised much handling issues, whereas now it becomes standard that the handling was pretty bang on. And to be fair, when I'm driving my Mark 4 around and I'm sending it around corners, it does stick to road like glue, really. And yeah, it was just basically set up for the 1500. So the last of the Spitfire, this Triumph Spitfire 1500, 95,800 were produced between the years of 1974 and 1980. The engine size was actually 1,493cc. Even less power in the US versions, just to meet them strict restrictions, and a catalyst converter also was added, producing only 53 brake horsepower, which meant that for them it was better to own an older one. You know what they say, old is gold, right? So yeah, they definitely would have probably preferred to own an older one. I definitely would have. The UK version was still good, with a 71 brake horsepower, and the handling was also good on these as well. So these still had like chrome bumpers, but were replaced with some plastic, I think in 1978. And in 1980, the car was now worth £3,631. The last ever Spitfire to leave the factory is in yellow, and that is in the British Motor Heritage Museum in Gaydon. So I'd like to thank everyone so much for watching this video. I am experimenting with the editing at the moment, so if it does seem a little bit dodgy, then I'm sorry about that. Thanks again so much everyone who's let me use their car in this video. You know, most people were there straight away like, yeah, use my car, use my car. You've all got equally beautiful cars. I'm definitely jealous of the Mark 1s and 2s and 3s. But yeah, you know, they are amazing cars. And yeah, look forward to some more videos. If you do like this, then please make sure you like and subscribe, as it really helps us as new YouTubers. And yeah, I'll see you soon.